Hey folks, Jack from Moonshift Audio here, and today I've got a short video about how to make a retro style keys sound in Serum that sounds like this. This patch, as well as 53 other basses, leads, pads and synth sounds, are all available for free in my Retro Serum Presets Pack. There's a link to that down in the description if you're interested. There's also a link down there to a video where I show you how to make an entire track in the style of The Weeknd's Dawn FM album using only sounds from that preset pack. But for now, here's how I made the rounded keys. Okay, so here we are in Serum, and as usual I'm going to start with an initial patch. And let's get stuck in. So I'm going to start off with the oscillators. We're going to use one of the analog oscillators from the Serum bank, and I'm going to go with JNO, which is their model of, or it might even be a sample of, a Roland Juno synth. So a nice place to start with for an analog synth. I'm going to set the wavetable position to 2, which is a kind of soft saw wave, I suppose. We're going to put the unison up to 4. And just bring the detune down to about 10 so it's not too spread. Let's just have a quick listen to that. Nice and thick there. Okay, so we'll have a quick look at the filter, and we're going to use a filter which I think is quite often overlooked. There's a nice German low pass filter here. Obviously it's acting on oscillator A, which is perfect. We're going to put the cut off up to about 2k, just slightly higher than that. Resonance about 20%, and the drive is going to be about 22%, just to fatten things up a little bit. We can have a quick listen to that. Now obviously we're not going to really hear the character of that filter working too much until we start to modulate it, so let's have a look at the envelope. Now this is a super simple patch, so we can use one envelope to modulate the amp as well as the filter. So envelope 1 it is. We're going to leave the attack where it is, but we're going to set the decay to about 750 milliseconds, something like that, and we're going to pull the sustain down by 8.2, something like that. 8.5 will be fine, 8.1, and we'll give it a bit of release. The release something like 1.5 seconds, so we should hear something like this. Sounding more like a keys already. However, the last thing to get a bit of character out of the filter is going to be to drag our modulation here up to the filter from the envelope 1, and we're going to set that to about 15, 16, 18 should be fine. Lovely. Okay, so now we just need to make this thing sound a little bit more authentic, a little bit more analog, a bit more retro. So I'm going to use LFO1. The triangle shape that it comes as standard is absolutely fine, but I am going to turn off the BPM sync, and we'll drag this down to about 4 Hertz, something like that should be fine. And I'm just going to use this to modulate the fine tune of the oscillator that we're using, and I'm going to do this quite heavily actually, like about 30, 32, something like that should be fine, and we should hear quite a wobble on that now. And that's just giving it a real nice bit of fake analog character. So the last thing we need to do to polish this sound off is get the effects tab open. I'm going to add a bit of distortion. I really like the tape saturation algorithm in Serum. I think it's a nice one. We're going to set this up to band pass for the EQ of the distortion, and we're going to go for about 1000 Hertz, 1K, and we'll probably pull the Q down quite low, something like 1 would be fine, just so we're actually creating quite a narrow bell with the EQ. We're going to put this on pre, and we're going to turn the drive up all the way, but pull the mix down quite hard, maybe let's call it 30%, see what that sounds like. maybe mix it a bit harder. And I just like that as a nice subtle way to use distortion. You're adding just a bit of kind of roughness in the low mids, and it just gives it a bit of character that you might not find in a very kind of clinical digital world. So that's a nice little tip to play around with there. We're now going to add a bit of reverb, and I'm going to drag this up pre the chorus, which we'll look at in a minute. Reverb wise, I think we can actually leave this just as is. You might want to tweak that depending on the project that you're using. You know, if you've got a very empty mix, you could chuck the reverb up higher. If you've got a lot going on, you might want to pull that back. But for what I'm using, I'm just going to leave it just like that. I've dragged it before the chorus because when it comes to the chorus, I want to hear the chorus working on those reverb tails. I think that's a really nice way to soften up the sound and just add a bit of character, whereas it's a bit more subtle if you have the chorus before the reverb. I'm going to pull the delay, both of them down to 0, and I might just rein the mix back a little bit as well. Let's have a listen to that. Nice. The last thing I'm going to do here is an EQ. Here's another trick if you want to get things sounding vintage. Just roll off a bit of the high end. So we could take this up to, say, I don't know, 3.5, 4,000 hertz, something like that. And we're going to pull the gain down, not loads. You can go crazy with these EQs in Serum. You know, 24 dBs is a massive cut or boost to apply. But I find like something even just as little as like 3 or 4 dB, something like that, can make the difference between just taking off a little bit of that kind of digital sizzle. So let's have a quick listen to that before and after. This is without, and now with. So like the distortion, it's actually quite subtle, but I often find it's these little touches, building them up, lots of little tweaks here and there that are going to really give you that kind of authentic analog sound in Serum. If you found that useful, please do like and subscribe to Moonshift Audio for more tips, tricks, resources and downloads. Till next time.